Viewers on the interwebs, this is a quick video that I decided to do on the fly to replace these bad boys. So, this is a Jeep TJ. This happens to be a 98. I believe the years will run 97 to 2006, all in the same basic design. What ends up happening with these door handles is there is a tab on the inside, so when you pull this lever, it will skip over the connection needed to actually get the door to open. It's unpleasant having to climb through the back of your soft top, especially in a suit and tie. So this is what we're going to go ahead and talk about. And I've already done this one, like I said, on the fly. So we're going to go ahead and review what we did to get to this point, and then go over some of the steps on the other side, the passenger door. So, first step you're going to have to do is to take off the panel itself. So the first step that you will have is to get in here. I don't know if we can see it very well, but there is a little clip. Basically, you can use a hook to get in there and get that clip out, like so. From there, the whole handle for the window will just slide right off, and you'll go ahead and set that aside. Be very careful with the clip. They want to pop out when you're taking them out, and they blend in very well. It might as well be camouflage for the good it's going to do you if it goes flying off. So go ahead and hold on to that. I find it's easy to use some of the little parts trays with the magnet on the bottom, just to throw everything on each side per door if you have them, but that way you know you're just not losing any screws or other parts. So after that, 3 quick screws, 1 here, 2 on the bottom, as so, and then the 2 screws here for the handle. Now I have one of these grip handles, but it should be the same concept on either one, and they are all stock small hex screws, as I understand. But if your TJ's like mine, who knows what they've put on there, so just be prepared for any variety of screwdriver heads that you might need. So I will go around to the other side, and we'll talk a little bit about the door itself. One thing I'm going to point out, this is that little tray that, like I said, I mean, it just comes in handy to hold everything so they don't go flying off. This is the clip that I was talking about. So basically, if you take the handle to the window, you'll see this little slit toward the back, right up against the edge of the handle. That's where this pin goes in. So again, just be very mindful of that. I know I'm harping on it, but trust me, you're going to appreciate it if you can manage to keep from losing it. So, I have one of the door handles here, the replacement handles. One thing that I want to show as a public service announcement. Let's look at the handle that I took off. I don't know if this was factory from Mopar, or if this was some cheap aftermarket somewhere along the way. But this is the piece that allows the door to open. So you'll see this bottom lever, it moves one way and the other, and what ends up happening is, with this here, and tension on it, it will move. You see, it's a little hard to see, but you'll see that it drags it forward, that pulls this lever down, and that opens the door. Now, here's the problem with the cheap aftermarket. Look at the lack of space, or the lack of extra buffer between these 2 pins. So I don't even need to put much pressure on it. I could probably do it with my hand. No, of course not. Well, anyway, needless to say, I had these on for several weeks, and they immediately popped off. I took the whole doors apart, repaired it to get it to work again, and then had to do the whole process over again. So just to stress this, you see the gaps between them. It is almost non-existent, and I would recommend, if you have a replacement handle that looks similar to this, return it immediately, pause what you're doing, and you'll thank me later. Here is the replacement that I bought. I just got it on Amazon. Kind of luck of the draw, but one of the listings actually showed an image of this lever device, and I want to point out that this piece is obviously much longer, and also where it clips on here is contoured. I don't know if you can see it there. So it tucks in closer to the housing, and it's going to make it much less likely that this thing is going to skip off and become inoperable, meaning you're going to have to open the whole door apart again. So again, like I said, if you can get one that has this set of tolerances, something that's very tight, that's going to be very helpful for you in the future. So this is where I have the door panel off. This is the bracket that holds on the door handle itself. Usually it's tucked up here. Just to keep everything in one place, I loosened one screw, tucked it off to the side. Not a big deal. You also have this plastic sheet, and I try to keep it in one piece as best as possible, but it wants to stretch and not come off of here cleanly. You may have to cut it, you may peel it back, and then just put a little something to hold it back in place. But that's essentially a vapor barrier, a water barrier, so it doesn't hurt to have it on there. So, inside, we have the guts of the thing up here. Now, I'm going to tell you that it is a bear to get any of this out. Let's look back at the door handle so you can get a better understanding of what's going on here. So, essentially, there are these clips on either side. And the thing that makes everything work is this little tab down at the bottom. Another thing that I would recommend is when you get these from the factory, just take a little pair of pliers and bend that in. Bend it so that it's a sharper angle pointing down. That's going to make your life a little easier later on. So from there is a plate that has all these steps in it. And once you get the door handle fitted into the door, the plates go in from the top, slide down, and push all the way until the steps are far enough to secure it from wiggling in the door frame itself. The complaint that a lot of people have is that no matter how far down they push it, it tends to still have some play. That will typically be solved, at least in my case, by, again, tilting this down and giving it a little more, a little less distance between the front of the door and the back of the housing. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to take out the other door and then explain a little bit more about what it looks like to get this off. Okay, back again. So I did skip a crucial step here, but it was one that you were not going to be able to see, Mr. and Mrs. There was just no way to get the camera reasonably up there to see it. I'm going to try to give as best of a description as I can from here, just so you can get an understanding of what you're going to be looking to deal with out there. So, here are those step clips. Look like a little saw, essentially. What ends up happening is, again, they slide down into the door, between the door and the outside of this housing here. And as they go down, you'll see it wants to clip into this metal clip. Now, it's a pain to get them out. I don't want to be bending a lot, but basically, the further you push it, the tighter this fitting gets. So there's one on either side of the door, and the best way to get them out, this door handle, in theory, the replacement is going to be coming, and it should have these clips. So what I did was, while the door is in there, I just took a small screwdriver and bent them out. By bending them out, they no longer grip onto the teeth, and you can just slide these up with your hand, or just a screwdriver just to pop them up and out of the way. Once they're released, the door handle should pop out. I will say it pays to have a smaller set of hands, but you do what you got to do. Some reviews show you taking out the window to avoid this being a problem. Fortunately, I was able to just reach in far enough inside to push that up and get it released. So at that point, this door handle comes out. You'll see I'm not overly concerned about the paint because this is the beater Jeep. But you want to be careful just not to scrape anything up if you're working in here. And the only other thing we need to work on at this moment is we'll take our handy dandy little pliers, and you can see it barely. I'm going to have to put the camera down to get it out. But there is a small clip right Go ahead and point to it with the pliers. Right down here. That connects to the door hardware. And there's a small cotter pin looking thing. Basically, just to show you on this, it attaches to here. You'll see that there's a hole there. The cotter pin goes inside. What I'm going to do is, because I have this pushed out, I'm going to reach in there with pliers and pull it out. Because, again, that is something that is a pain to get out if you're trying to work from the inside. Just because all you can do is work from this tiny space here. Another quick pause, and then I'll show you what that pin looks like. Okay, so here's what that little cotter pin looks like. Not a big deal. Another one that you do not want to get lost, though. So I'm going to set it in here for the moment in my little magnet tray. Beyond that, really all we have to do is take the replacement door handle that we have here. We are going to slide it into the door, connect this guy right here to this pin, using the cotter pin, again, with a pair of pliers is easiest. Get that back in place, then slide the rest of the housing in, and use those step plates to push it down as far as you can. Again, you can potentially get from the top. I found it easiest after some trial and error to reach my hand all the way up, pull down on them, and just get them as tight as possible. You could potentially also use a pair of pliers from the bottom, grab the bottom of it, and just drag it down as best you can. You'll know when they fit tight because the door handle will not be moving. So another pause here and we'll move on. So, took a little longer than I would have liked. Those step pins are still a bit of a pain in the butt. I made it sound like it's fairly straightforward. It is not. Never is, but I've gone through this a couple times now, unfortunately. So, again, the trick is to just make sure they are down as far as possible. I used a little L-shape strip of metal that I had to go in here and force it down further. Again, you can also use a pair of pliers or vice grips if you can get them up there to pull it down. You just want it to be as tight as possible. You'll know it's not tight if this door handle is moving. You can see that there is, other than a little gap, which I'm going to have to repaint obviously, there is no issues here. It's pretty tight. Time will tell if that will hold. If those pins start to get loose, then you got to get in there and deal with it again. But as you can see, door closes, door opens. It does its job. For those few months of the year where you've got to put the doors back on, we are okay. So, anyway, I hope this video helps. I had a little trouble finding some videos that really explained it and passed over a lot of the issues that I had, so I thought I'd make my own. Like I said, let me know if there's extra comments or questions. I'll be happy to help.